I'm joined now by the Executive Director at the Henry Jackson Society, Dr Alan Mendoza. Alan, I didn't know you had a doctor in front of you. No, I've never said that before. Dr Alan, firstly then, how does the government decide where the foreign funds should go in the first place?
Well, it's normally done obviously on a project basis, a needs basis. You look at what areas you want to be supporting, and then you allocate funds accordingly. There'll be complicated procedures for, kind of analysing need, analysing the best way the money can be spent, analysing whether XYZ scheme enables you to tick your own boxes internally with the bureaucracy, and then you submit. You actually choose obviously where you put the money to.
Giving it to India, I mean, they've got their own. Haven't they got their own space project going on? They're doing pretty well in terms of their economy. What is the reasoning for that country being on the list?
Well, you'll have to ask, obviously, the bureaucrats in charge to work that one out. I agree with you. It seems ridiculous that when India is lavishing money on things that are not related to development with its own purposes, space, nuclear, etc., you have to then wonder why on earth we are, subsidising its ability to do these things. That's really not a very sensible way for our taxpayers to be spending their money, subsidising countries to go on, kind of vanity projects or, sort of develop very expensive weapons. I think, there does need to be a reckoning about things like this. In fact, we hope there would be a reckoning about things like this when the Department for International Development was actually rolled into the Foreign Office. That was the whole point. The point was to finally make sure that there was if you like, a playthrough from British foreign policy objectives into development work as well.
Well, another country that we seem to be giving foreign aid to is China. Now, they did abstain from that vote, so they haven't openly, actively supported Russia, but they've not condemned them either. I mean, what about China? And even before the war, I'm just wondering why we're even putting any money towards China in terms of foreign aid. Do they give us any foreign aid of any description?
Well, the Chinese case is absolutely ridiculous. This is differing funds coming from differing sources. But of course, how can you give money over to one of the almost world, the second world economic superpower? This does seem absolutely ludicrous. And again, it's an example of how we're not getting on top of all our foreign aid spending. We have various different pots that we're sending money out of. Some of them, strict rules have been imposed as to where money can go, but clearly, as in the China example, you're getting money flowing from other departments, and this needs to stop as well.
Money flows like water, so it can occupy a different space, and you can't really say, oh, this money's going to that, because once it's all in a pot, then you can't say that bit of the pot came from there. So it's almost a nonsense to say that specifically will go for specific set things, because they might go for other things and it might be different money in that pot. So it doesn't really make much sense to me. But I'm going to say that Britain spent about 14.5 billion on humanitarian assistance, and they reduced the aid. But is there a possibility that they could potentially take away most of that aid and maybe put it back into this country and start putting that money into things like the care sector, because we need aid here?
Well, I think the British people have always recognised there's a value in international aid, and the purpose of it is not simply to put into the wrong pockets, but to actually put into schemes that will make other places less violent, less dangerous, less unstable. The purpose being that if you have instability in these places, that ends up coming to UK shores. It comes to UK shores in the form of migrants, for example, and others who are, kind of leaving a place for a place they see a better economic opportunity. So apart from doing the right thing, because we all believe charity is a good thing, and yes, charity does begin at home, but we do provide lots, obviously, in this country as well. The aid budget is a very small amount compared to domestic spending. There is also always a sense of, let's deal with problems thousands of miles away before they become problems on these shores as well. And that's why we shouldn't get away from the foreign aid game. It's important to be able to help people to be the best versions that they can be in their own countries, rather than having them leave their countries and come here.
Perhaps we should, I mean, if it were me and I was doing this, I'd probably halve the entire aid budget, full stop, because 14 billion, that would mean that I could potentially reduce the increase in national insurance for the people in this country, and also perhaps fund some social care, which I think is desperately needed. Would you, in your view, just so your own sort of opinion, do you think that the UK needs to sort of reduce the amount of aid? I know it's obviously we will obviously send some aid to some countries that definitely need it, but do you think that perhaps we're spending too much on this?
No, I don't think we're spending too much. We had a cut, of course, a temporary cut by the government, which I supported at the time because of the exceptional circumstance economically. But I do think foreign aid is a valuable part of what we as a country do. It's part of our soft power. It's part also of our responsibility as a better off nation to others around the world. And like I say, part of the reason that we give foreign aid is to stop problems in other countries from becoming so large that they become insurmountable. Countries break down, there's terrorism, there's violence, people leave, and ultimately people come here. That, what we shouldn't be doing is sort of wanting an unstable world. We should be looking at projects where we can improve stability globally and pick good projects, not bad projects, the kinds that you have highlighted, because those can really make the difference to ordinary people's lives on the ground, and make a big difference to the countries who are giving them their ability to actually end up managing a far more stable and prosperous solution for themselves and their citizens.
Well, listen, Alan, thank you very much for talking to me. That's Dr. Alan Mendoza, Executive Director at the Henry Jackson Society. Thank you for your thoughts.